Hi, good morning. How's it going? I hope you're well and in good spirit this morning. I know it's after the election, and I'm hoping to some degree that you are at least getting some rest from the stress of the week and all that we get to learn this week. Interestingly, I just wanted to make this video not because of course, we're all interested in in politics and all that, but I wanted to make the video just as a commentary following my video. If you're watching this channel or subscribe on this channel, you will remember that I mentioned that there are two things that we must vote for in this election season. One is competence, and the other is character. Now, and interestingly, just after the election, I was just scrolling through my news feed just to get a sense of what's happening and get an update. And I observed something. Take a look. Going through my news feed, I noticed that people were beginning to observe and kind of comment on the fact that Kamala Harris and her campaign kind of called it an early night on Tuesday and kind of did not actually come to encourage people, the supporters that was actually waiting all night to see her and hopefully, support her. And essentially, of course, that left a lot of people demoralized. But simply having someone coming to, at the end of the day, tell them to go home was also very sad and really tells you a lot about maybe Kamala Harris herself as a presidential candidate. Now, remember, I did mention that character is important. Character is about integrity, right? It's about empathy. It's about, not avoiding responsibility. And as I was reflecting on that and I'm reading through the news feed, it seemed like it's a pattern. Because in 2016, when Hillary Clinton had lost the election, the same thing happened. She did not come in to encourage the supporters, and even if she tells them to go home, it should come from her. But the same kind of pattern. Now, watch what had happened. In 2016, a man had come out to actually tell the people go home, and the same thing happened just last night, where you also have a man coming to tell people go home. What does that really tell us? Is there something about gender here that, I don't know, I'm just speculating, I'm not sure what might be happening, but some would argue on one hand that perhaps it's possible that men handle tension and conflict and challenges better than women. Of course, there's some research that kind of shown this over, I don't know, maybe that's what's happening. Or perhaps, the candidates were just overwhelmed and just did not really want to kind of, show up after it's kind of clear and evident that they were losing. But on the other hand, I think that even speaks more about the character of a person, because if I was there that night, sitting out in the night, of course, that's not to say that I'm voting for Kamala Harris or Trump. I wouldn't disclose that on this platform because also, besides, I'm not an American citizen, so I'm not eligible to vote. But I'm just imagining in a hypothetical situation that I was standing there that night sharing my presidential candidate to be, and it appears or somehow seemed like my candidate is losing the election. And we were actually anticipating for the candidate to come in to say something or, encourage us. And the person did not do that. I'll be so disappointed and demoralized, and so I just feel bad for the people that were just waiting at Howard University for Kamala Harris last night to come to at least say something to them. And sadly, she did not show up. Let me read some of the comments that people were making on I think on Facebook and even Twitter. This person from Larry Stein, he said, Kamala Harris tells Howard University campaign rally, go home, demoralized, this looks bad for Harris. The other person also said, Vice President Kamala Harris and her campaign called it an early night on Tuesday. The Harris World's campaign chair, Jen O'Malley Dillian, encouraged supporters to go home and get some sleep ahead of 11 p.m. on Tuesday, which was followed by Kamala Harris skipping an address to her supporters. This does not look bad. The fact that you're skipping your address for your supporters, I don't think it speaks highly of you. Someone also, Brian Rabuano, he said, has anyone seen or heard from Kamala Harris? I feel bad for all her supporters that were there in attendance to support her at her alma mater, Howard University. These supporters were told to go home. Kamala Harris had nothing to say to them. Today, the votes were counted, and Republican Donald Trump won the election. The citizens of the United States of America overwhelmingly voted for Mr. Trump to be our next president. Where is Kamala? Not a word from her. This is the same Kamala Harris that the country's seen for the past 3.5 years. As VP of a country, you never or seldom saw her. The Democratic nominee Kamala Harris lost the election, and instead of coming out to speak to her supporters and concede the election, she has once again ghosted the citizens of the United States of America. This is an interesting one by Jake Whittaker, which I think is very interesting. I noticed something really sad about the character of two women I've seen run for president. Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris both had support among young women who hoped to see the first woman elected president. Hillary and Kamala Harris both left those young women alone with sadness in a venue where these women were there still supporting them after defeat. Both times a man came out to tell them to go home, and they never showed their face. That's sad. Each time I have felt sadness for these young women and thought that the women who were running lacked the decency, and I would also add, and also character, to come console their supporters in defeat. It just goes to show that neither women were worthy of being elected in the first place. I think that's striking on all ends and very sad as well. On one hand, you see an avoidance of responsibility. The fact that Kamala Harris, even Hillary Clinton, failed to console their supporters. Of course, this is sort of seen as a, they were really trying to avoid succumbent. I don't know what it is to say, but I see an avoidance of responsibility here, right? They couldn't face the outcome of the election, and even demonstrate accountability to those who supported the campaign. That's really sad. That's really sad. Also, you see a lack of empathy, really, because not appearing to sort of acknowledge supporters, so especially supporters that were support the feelings of supporters, not acknowledge the feelings of their supporters, who were sitting out the whole day, waiting for you to give your talk, whether it's to declare your victory or concede visit. That in itself can suggest like a disregard for the emotional investment of these women, these young women, and even young men as well. Those who actually backed you as a candidate. And of course, this shows really a clear lack of empathy. But aside from it being showing an inability to actually accept defeat gracefully, I think it also goes to show the character of the candidate who, of course, in this instance, was not able to really acknowledge the loss publicly, even at a time that, you had a lot of people looking out to you. Now, also, it's just sad on many ends. You also see the disregard for the needs of the supporters, because the fact that you're not showing up, you kind of appear to be self-centered, really. It seems as though that their own feelings of loss your feeling of loss as a candidate itself kind of takes precedence over that of your supporters, who actually need closure and encouragement at this time. At the end of the day, you wouldn't be there if not for those people. But also I see a perceived lack of integrity, because leaders who avoid public acknowledgement of defeat may actually be viewed as sort of lacking integrity, right? Because at the end of the day, I think transparency and openness are oftentimes associated with strong character. And in this case, I don't see that integrity, and I'm not surprised that Kamala Harris lost this election. But most importantly, think about it for a second. This actually shows a weakness in crisis, because the fact that you're choosing to be silent over difficult conversations, even though that you lost, can actually imply that you kind of lack resilience. And as the president of this nation, you've you've got to have a strong sense of resilience. Could that also be the reason why that in both occasions, even at the time that Hillary Clinton lost the election, and even last night, we see a man coming up to actually encourage people, encourage the supporters to get some rest and go home? Perhaps this actually suggests that both women actually, I think as Jake Whittaker had mentioned, that they're not equipped to even handle the adversity of leadership, and even help guide people through it. I think I'll end with this last statement because I think it's very striking. I think from Jake Whittaker, it said, it just goes to show that neither women were worthy of being elected in the first place. Of course, I'm not saying that women don't have capacity to be presidents, but also this also brings conversations around gender and leadership as well. In cases where you have, is it a problem of weakness in crisis? The fact that it's most likely that most men will have stronger resilience compared to most women. Or could it just be a one-off thing? But it can be, because it can just be a coincidence that in two occasions where we had women going for top positions in the country, at the night that they lost the election, they couldn't show up their face to even encourage their supporters, people that have actually put them on the map. Or even, I'm not talking about conceding defeat, because that doesn't matter. Eventually that they will have to do that. But in both occasions, they couldn't do that. And also you end up having a man come up to close the day. That says a lot. Anyway, I'll stop here. Let me know what you think. Did you also observe the same thing? Are you as frustrated about that as I am? I was just thinking about the young women that is actually looking up to Kamala Harris last night, and the fact that she left them hanging really says a lot about her character. Anyway, and I hope that you have a wonderful day, and congratulations, by the way, to President Trump, who's been elected. I hope that he would, keep his promises to the people of this great country, and looking forward to what the next couple of weeks and months and years will look like during his presidency. Hey, you take care. Make sure you share this post if you've not, and subscribe if you've not as well. I'd love to see you more here. All right? You take care. Bye.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff.